Welcome back to my Star Wars Legends Expanded Universe chronological timeline order, where I go through the entire expanded universe according to my personal timeline order and rank each and every individual piece of media on a 10-point scale. And we are finally here, after many, many short stories and a brief break for some RPG stories. We are finally back with some more comic issues. And today we are on Tales of the Jedi, issue number 1, the first Tales of the Jedi comic to come out release-wise. Of course, we've already reviewed the 2 prequel comics already. Tales of the Jedi issue 1 was written by Tom Veitch, published in 1993, taking place in 4000 BBY. It's a comic issue written by, or published by Dark Horse. This is part 1 of a 2-part series called Ulic Qel-Droma and the Beast Riders of Onderon. And so we begin the story with on Arcania, a frozen planet where the Arcanian Jedi Master Arca Jeth is training his 3 young apprentices, Taut Donita, Ulic Qel-Droma, and his brother Kay Qel-Droma. And Ulic is fighting against a training droid and destroys the droid, and his brother has to repair it. We see instantly that his brother is very tech-savvy, and we learn that Ulic is somewhat brash, reckless, bold, as he fights the droid, kind of not arrogant, but overconfident, yes. And Taut Donita is a bit more reserved. And Kay has a knack with machines. We see him tinkering with his lightsaber, tinkering with the droid, and then Arca sits them down and tells them a story. The story is about the newly discovered planet of Onderon, where the Republic has just made contact with Onderon, because Onderon's a planet that's just about capable of space travel. So this is interesting. In Star Wars kind of competitor franchise, Star Trek, we learn a lot about the customs of first contact with a new civilization, with a new planet that's achieved technology that can allow them to be contacted by the Federation. So it's interesting to hear about how the Republic makes contact with worlds that are just capable of space travel as well. I thought that was quite interesting to learn about that, because we hear about that all the time in Star Trek, so it was kind of cool to see it in Star Wars. So Arca Jeth is telling them the story of how the moon of Duxun in the Onderon system had these great, terrible, bloodthirsty beasts that descended on the planet years ago, and that the Onderonians had a hard time surviving this. But then some people fractured off and joined with the beast and became riders of the beasts, and they became the Beast Riders of Onderon, and they are now fighting against the government in a war there. And so Arca Jeth says, there's a certain Jedi that's a protector, if you will, of a system. And they're like, "Oh, you're leaving us, Master?" And he's like, "No, you 3 will be the protectors." And they're all like, "What? After years of training, we finally get to go down onto a planet?" And so they descend on the planet and are attacked by Beast Riders as their ship's descending. But they make it inside the gates and make it to the city of Isis, which we know all about Isis from all the short stories we've been reading. And currently, King Omen is no more. It is Queen Aminoa in charge now, and she has a daughter as well. And as soon as they land in the city, almost getting destroyed by Beast Riders on their way down, they exit their craft and are greeted by Novar, the meddling servant. And Novar and his guards instantly detain Taut Donita, and they discriminate against aliens here. No aliens are to be in the Queen's presence. And so Queen Aminoa, though, is like, yeah, all 3 of them can come. And so the 3 of them go up, and Queen Aminoa, anyways, calls Taut Donita a wormhead, which I'm not sure how this civilization that's just been discovered knows the derogatory term for a Twi'lek. Maybe they picked it up on the first contact, but it's kind of weird that she knows that already. because she calls them Wormhead or Wormtails, or the derogatory term for Twi'leks. And so if I didn't mention Tatanita is a Twi'lek, maybe I didn't mention that earlier, but one of the 3 Jedi, the reserved one, Tatanita, is indeed part of the Twi'lek species. And so the 3 Jedi are there, and all of a sudden the Beast Riders attack again. So the Jedi spur into action and show us their cool moves as they take on Beast Commandos and other Beast Riders. But while they are distracted elsewhere in the city, other Beast Riders storm in and attack the Queen and her daughter, the Princess. And they're able to kidnap her princess, or the princess, not her princess. But the Queen uses her dark side energy in the fight, and she goes, "I summon the power of Freedom Nad!" And then she uses the Force against them. But something is hampering her use of Force powers, and they are able to resist it and kidnap the daughter. And so when the Jedi return, she goes, "Cursed Jedi, they got away with my daughter! No!" Okay, and so the Jedi are then like, great. So he gets in his Nebular class starfighter, something like that, and he's blasting off when his ship is hit with a missile and it explodes. And that's the end of the first issue. Did he survive his ship being blown up? Well, you will have to wait until issue number 2 to find out. So, what are my thoughts on this issue? First, I'm just going to say Dave Dorman's cover art here is some of, if not the single best piece of art in the entire expanded universe. It is probably top 5. This is just, I love this cover art. Oh my goodness, it is beautiful. Props to Dave Dorman. The art on the inside is really good too, and the colors really pop. They're really distinctive. The greens and the gold and the grays all they really pop. It's really good color choices that really set the aesthetic tone of the Tales of the Jedi comics here. I think the art is really good in this issue. The story is good too. I'm getting into the story. The characters, we're starting to get to know them a little bit. In the first issue, they're not really that developed. They just have their niche that they fall into, but that's fair enough. They're introducing the characters to us for the first time, so they all have a niche to fill, a stereotype to hold to. There's the arrogant, brash one, there's the tech gizmo guy, and there's the reserved, contemplative, silent type Jedi here. And we'll see them develop a lot more over the course of this comic series. But overall, so far, I really like the characters. They're good characters so far. I'm interested to know what's going on. Onderon is set up, especially reading this in chronological order for the first time, especially after all of those short stories that really set the stage for this comic with all of the world building we already know about from all the short stories we read about Onderon and Isis. I was really excited when I got to this comic, and I'm like, oh, I know what's going on with all these people now. Onderon is set up as a really interesting environment for the story. Archijeth was also pretty cool in the beginning. I liked how he was the one telling the story so that the reader knows the background of Onderon. That was a nice touch for Tom Veitch to propel the story forward without doing something weird like in Dawn of the Jedi Force Storm 1, where it's just an exposition dump in the beginning. He works it into where in-universe one character is telling the other characters the story in the middle of the story. So it really flowed better that way. So overall, this is a really fantastic issue. I can't say enough positive things about this comic. Nothing is wrong with this comic in any way. It is blissful. This is the EU at its best. There is some awesome panels in here. Good writing. Interesting, intriguing, and very interesting to see where the storyline goes. Tales of the Jedi issue 1 is really good stuff. And I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. Super solid issue. And I hope you guys you guys better enjoy Tales of the Jedi, the comic. So let me know. What did you think of Tales of the Jedi? Issue number 1. I think it's a fantastic start to a great series. And I will talk about issue 2 that wraps up the Ulic Qel-Droma and the Beast Riders of Onderon storyline next time. So I'll see you then.